Welcome back to day 10 of our chess journey to 1500 ELO on chess.com. Let's just jump on straight ahead and go into our game. Our opponent is from the USA and has an ELO of 1233. I'm not going to try to pronounce their name today, I think. That seems to be quite the challenge. We're just playing our normal opening moves. I think we'll go something like this and castling perhaps, or we could play like this. I guess we'll get our knight out first here. Our opponent is playing their bishop out, and we'll move our bishop and then castle ourselves. Our opponent castles, and so do we, I think. I think we had a similar game to this one the other day, and I think we developed our bishop like this, contesting our opponent's bishop along this diagonal. Alternatively, we could be looking at a queen move, just developing our queen, but I think we'll just play this first at least. Yeah, this name seems incredibly awkward. As just probably a button mash by our opponent. Something like this, or maybe this move as well. But it only seems to bully the rook a bit unless we can get our bishop further in. I would like to punish those dark squares here, but it's kind of difficult to get in as the knight moves are covered. So we'll just develop our bishop. I kind of want our opponent to capture here, but they probably won't, as it's not a good move probably. But I'm still trying to find an idea our opponent should play in this position, so their moves don't come as a surprise to us. I'm looking at this move, trying to kill the threat of his push here, because I think he's looking to play this move. Alternatively, we could play like this even and try to prevent him from grabbing more space. I'm looking at this kind of a maneuver as well. I think this will be our first plan at least. It's important to make note our rook here is defended, so if this happens in any way, then we can recapture if his rook is the one to capture ours first. Our opponent plays up like this. So we're currently grabbing equal space here. This is a pretty closed position. This move might have been a mistake, as we might have had to play up like this perhaps, although I'm not quite sure. After this, our opponent has to go here. And although moving in like this looks like a good move, I don't see how we would continue. They could probably just move their knight as well and threaten us. So we'll have to develop an idea in this position. We could look for a move like f4 perhaps, but then we would have to get our knight out of the way. I would also like to connect our rooks rather, which would probably be done by moving our queen up. Then it also defends our bishop in any continuations. So which kind of a pawn break should we be looking for? We could probably move our rook and push like this, or we could be looking for a pawn push like this. Our opponent, however, seems to want to be in the driver's seat here and probably prepares this move, I think. If they go here, I think we could try to open up like this. I'm liking this kind of an idea, putting our rooks on those files as they seem like they might open up. We don't have any immediate tactical threats at least, so let's try to improve our position as much as possible. I'm noticing really recently a lot of our opponents are playing super quickly. I'm impressed by how they all seem to have like 15 minutes as we get to the middle game and even further beyond at times. They seem to... Okay, so what does this move seem to accomplish? It weakens this pawn push. Could we maybe look to reposition our knight and push f4? I'm not really liking f4 as long as we don't get to target this pawn though. This move, however, opens up this opportunity, but we don't have anything to capture. We don't threaten anything. I think we'll just move our knight back here and prepare for this move probably. Strengthening our defense here and preparing to open up the center. It's probably going to be scary for our opponent having their queen on this file. But as long as this pawn persists here, then that's no problem. This move, it doesn't really do that much. It I want this move to do a lot more than what it's going to do. Could we maybe play up like this? I'm not super familiar with all those closed position type of ideas, but this move probably doesn't work because this bishop, this pawn, sorry, is undefended. I'm not seeing a lot of decent knight jumps either. I think I'd like to capture here actually, to open up our pieces. Our opponent captures like this. And now I'd like to just jump in and say hello with our bishops. This square might be good for a knight outpost. They move their rook over here. How about this move? I don't know whether this knight move or this bishop move would be better. But I would like to, or I'm just noticing this knight move doesn't work because we would lose our queen. We could move our queen over here, defending and holding everything together. That seems like a decent idea. And what's our opponent going to play? I would have liked this move if it wasn't for this easy counter move by our opponent, because our bishop is currently a lot stronger than theirs, so we wouldn't want to trade ourselves. Okay, so let's have a look at this. This doesn't seem to accomplish a lot. We could move a rook over here and prepare to attack down here, or we could move this knight straight away. I'm liking the prospects of moving this knight, and if they take, we've got this bishop that they can't hit at least. We are currently preventing them from doubling up easily as well, or so I'd like to say, but they might do so just now as well. But these bishops here are just lasers into his position. I wouldn't want to be our opponent right here. And their bishop is staring at a pawn chain, which is not quite what they would like to see, I guess. I'm looking at different knight maneuvers, getting over here or here, for example, moving like this, or, well, this would be difficult because we would have to go through this square, which would be 4 moves away from here. So this is probably not likely. They move their pawn up, taking away this potential outpost for us. Do we have any options of doing this? They could try to double up. And we could just trade everything down this file, get the rooks off the board, but we would have to make a conscious decision as to whether we think that would be beneficial for us or our opponent. I would like to contest this square further as well, but we can't move in with a knight, at least. I think this might be on the agenda, as long as this is not a move here. But we wouldn't really be threatening anything immediately. So I think we'll do this and see what happens. I'm expecting this response. And then I guess we take, they take, we take. We trade on. I think this is going to be good for us simply because of our access into our opponent's position and these bishops over here being an absolute menace. Just have to double check we don't have any other options here. I'm also noticing trading off the rooks allows us to break apart their pawns over here, because this is defended. They take, and we have to take as well. So I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at this, and probably a knight maneuver as well, if we get the chance. Currently they might be trying to jump in with their knights as well. I want to cover this square, so that we might leave our knight here for a while, because this might be a powerful square to get a jump into our position. I'm curious as to what the evaluation would say about this position though. I'm looking at this move, hitting the knight, but it's double defended, I'm noticing. This might be a move as well, after which we could play like this, but it doesn't really change a lot here. So I guess we'll go up here and put pressure on our opponent. Or so I'd like to say, but we can't really accomplish much immediately. We could try to play along this diagonal, but I'm not seeing an immediate threat. We might just play like this, and try to go after this pawn, I think. Let's do that. So this position is equal, at least in terms of material, but I'm not so convinced it's equal in terms of evaluation here, because I think we've got a lot of good things going for us with this bishop here staring down and us controlling the open file here. Also, we have this target here, which our opponent does not have, because we've got ours defended by our bishop. Theirs is of course defended by their knight as well, but their knight is a lot weaker than our bishop is. I'm expecting this knight to get a move into the game soon, but it's difficult for it to maneuver, as this knight of ours is covering its best square. Our opponent could try to go for this maneuver, however. I think we'll just have to see what they do, but I'm expecting the capture here. Because if our opponent doesn't capture, then we capture, and this becomes a much easier target for us to stack up on. Just getting our pieces like this, and I don't think our opponent would be able to defend their pawn. Then we would have a passed pawn. Also, we would get this outpost as well, because this, and this knight move threatening the pawn also threatens to move onto this strong square over here. So I think this might be a blunder, like a positional blunder at least, by our opponent. I'm also looking at this move, because currently this knight is only defended once, and we would be hitting down here with 2 pieces. This seems like a good move right now. I didn't want to play it earlier, as our opponent's knight was defended by the knight here and their queen. But now they might have made it a bit difficult for themselves, because they might have to move back to defend their knight, and then we will just get progress in the position here. Then we could just play as we want over here and get our ideal position and setup. Yeah, this is a Grünfeld defense as well, which was, I think, what we played the last time we had a similar position. And then we were thinking of this knight move. And then how does our opponent defend? Because if they move their queen, it gets taken. Oh, their queen is actually defending it already. I think this move is probably going to be played here. We just have to make sure our opponent doesn't have any powerful threats here. And I'm not really noticing any. So we'll move up like this. We might move in, probably not like this, because we don't want to lose our bishop. I'm actually looking at this maneuver. But then our opponent could move their queen here. Which would be kind of awkward for us. The annoying thing here is, as long as the knights defend each other, we can't take with our queen. So we don't really lock our opponent's queen down to this square. Our opponent might play this move as well, because our bishop here is really powerful. But if our opponent plays a move that doesn't really threaten us, I think we might consider playing this move. Because then I don't think our opponent has any way of saving their pawn. It's important to note as well, once we leave this file here, it's currently defended by 2 other pieces, so we don't get back rank mated by any queen moves here. I'm finding it difficult to find good moves for our opponent, which is probably why they are struggling as well here and using a lot of time. They might just have to move this knight here, and they decide to move it back like this, hitting our queen. I was looking at this kind of a move, but what does our opponent do after this? I think this would lose the pawn for them, because they can't reinforce this, and moving the knight loses the queen. And if they move their queen out of the pin, then they can't really generate any threats, I think. I'm not seeing any threats here at least. So let's move here and see what our opponent does. Considering this is an outside passed pawn, I think it might be a pretty nice conversion by us afterwards. But our opponent might still find some good threats. Their knight here is kind of paralyzed right now. And their queen doesn't have any good moves. Only move I'm seeing that threatens anything is this move, probably. So which alternative moves could our opponent be playing? This is kind of difficult as well, because we're covering so many squares down here. Our bishops are absolute beasts in this position. I'm also curious as to whether we should capture with our queen or our knight here, and I think it's probably better to capture with our queen. First of all, threatening the queen trade, but also getting this immediate outpost for our knight or bishop. I'm actually liking the bishop outpost more. That's a better move than I expected it to be, because we looked at this move, right? But The threat here is they capture with the queen, I think. And then they can infiltrate. So let's look at this. Captures, captures. But as long as we capture like this, then they can't really move their queen, as they would lose their knight. So I think we're still good to go. And if they capture like this, we might even have this move. Which would win either the knight or the queen, probably. Or wait a second. This move is not a move. Well, we play like this. We have to be careful in regards to our time here as well. I think the knight capture, or the capture with the queen, might have been suboptimal here actually, because keeping this pin would have paralyzed our opponent. They decline the trade and threaten their infiltration. We do, however, have this move. Then they could play this. We could capture, they could capture. We could slide over and start pushing our pawn. Those two adjacent outposts here are really powerful, I think. So now we just have to find a way of escorting our piece here. They found this alternative move here. The threat here, of course, is if we capture, they checkmate us. So we'll have to defend this in some way. This is probably not a move. Nope. I guess we'll look at this. This seems to be an only move, perhaps. I think this might have been a move as well, and it might have actually been even better when I think about it, but I tried to preserve some time here. The reason this move would have probably been good is it would have escorted the pawn across more squares. If our opponent captures, we have to make a decision here. Which way do we recapture? Okay, they play like this, and I think we'll just go. Just push the pawn. What's our opponent going to do about it? I don't think they've got many options. This knight here is paralyzed by our bishop, so if it moves we probably just capture it. I would like to nullify this threat here though. But do we have time to invest a tempo? That's the question. This might be a move. It gives us space for our king, as well as kicking this knight out. They play like this. And I think we could honestly just push here. If they capture, then we capture. And this is defended. Capture, capture. Yeah, we'll push. And pre-move this. How are they going to respond? This is scary for our opponent. I'm also looking at this move. It forces our opponent's queen off of this file here, so he can't checkmate us, and it escorts the pawn as well, keeping it defended all the time. This move could look decent on the paper, but we could capture like this. So I think this might just be a win, as long as I'm not overlooking anything, of course. That has happened before. This move. I think we'll just play this in response. They play like this, which is a creative move. The thing is, if we go like this, they could go like this. So how about we move like this one? Getting our queen behind our pawn. Or actually, I'll just play this move first of all. Then we might be able to play this, because this wouldn't be a threat anymore. Captures, and we would have to capture like this, and our opponent's knight would be tied down to this defense. Then we should probably just win this side. Or we could actually move our queen, our king over as well, I think. Just walk it all the way. But this might just be an immediate win. As long as our opponent doesn't capture here, then we push and it's over. Their knight can't really remaneuver in time. They capture and we go like this. And this should probably be trivial. Now we either win over here, or we move our king. we'll just move up. This we go like this. And as we slither our way around here, I think we should be pretty good to go. We have time back on our clock as well, so we shouldn't have any risk of running out of time. If our opponent plays this move, then I think we just move up with our king. And play this move afterwards and promote, I think. I think this really displays the power of a single pawn. Let's calculate a bit. Yeah, this is just a win, I think. This move might just win. Or this move as well, maybe. I think this is cleaner. They push there, and we go like this. So let's calculate this. Captures, if they go like this, we capture, and we could just get our king over here. This could be faced with this, after which we promote, and they lose their knight. I'm curious as to whether we have blundered any draws at this point, which is easy to do because some lines can be very difficult in endgames. The computer can find some really bizarre lines. But I think we should have been able to keep our advantage throughout. Our opponent lets their clock run out. And we win today. That brings us to 1296 ELO. And let's have a look at the game review. Today we played with an accuracy of 81.8 and our opponent played with 75.5. I'll make sure to bring the keyboard a bit further away from the microphone today because it made a lot of noise yesterday. We played this kind of a normal opening here, the Grunfeld defense again. All book moves all the way here, and in this position we should have apparently played e4. A4 rather, my bad. I guess just immediately taking away our opponent's chances of playing b5, which makes sense. We should have apparently went for this. I'll just get the evaluation bar here so we can look at the differences. This was a slight difference, sorry. We'll go back here. This would have been good because this was actually pretty good, but how about our opponent moving their knight here then? Let's say this, for example. Then we would have had c5 even. Yeah, that's a critical move. Just locking our bishop in. Okay, but we missed this kind of an idea, and we played up here. And moved our rook into the game. Here we should have apparently moved in here, which would have been really good. After which they could have played this, and our plan would have been f4, of course. Just pushing up here, supported by the rook. That makes sense. But we moved like this and captured here. The best move would have been e4. But then if they take, here was what I was looking at. Of course we could have just captured. I got kind of blind because I didn't realize we would protect this after moving our knight. So we didn't go with the idea we had planned, and we captured instead. They apparently had the better recapture here, opening up their rook. This was a miss. The difference doesn't seem to be very large though. Sorry, I misclicked again, my bad. The difference here is rather minuscule, I think. This was a slightly better move. We get out of the way and we jump on in. Apparently in this position we lost a pretty decent advantage by moving in like this. We should have maybe taken the file, as the computer says, played this move, or played our bishop up here. Okay, we played a bit safer and got this double outpost kind of position. We traded off the rooks rather, and we identified this would be awkward for our opponent. The computer seems to have wanted this move several times throughout the game. We thought it was a bit scary to play it, and that our bishop could just be dislodged. But the computer evaluated that position differently. We played like this, and in this position we should have captured straight away. Because here apparently our opponent could have played this, of course, because if we take here, they could take, and this would not be super good for us. But they didn't spot it, and we got our capture here. We jumped in. Apparently, once again, this move was the critical move. I'm curious though. How come? This move, for example. We can just, we could just threaten a trade and the knight and just get complete control over here. We would have forced the trade because their queen couldn't have moved. We would have taken the knight, if not, and then we would have won this pawn. We did not spot that, and we proceeded like this, pinning their knight, capturing their bishop, and as we thought might be the case, we should have kept this pin. Instead we captured like this, got our knight into the game. This is not a checkmate, because we've got this move. I did not see that. But I'm sure a lot of you might have done so. I tend to get blinded at times when doing these recordings. It's always funny looking in the hindsight because I'm just sitting there and looking at myself, and asking myself, why are you not spotting this obvious tactical idea? We capture like this, we push up, and then we go for this. In this position, the computer wanted us to play h4 first, but moving our king up seems to have worked as well. And here we won on time, as our opponent didn't seem to find any idea in the position. Well, that's it for today. That's, I think, 2 consecutive wins in a row. And thank you a lot to, yeah, this name, however you would pronounce it, from the USA. Bye bye.